The oracle ceremony is a special ritual where 15-year-old teenagers receive unique abilities. Everyone looks forward to this day, dreaming of the best possibilities. The young actor Glenrid was also approaching his important moment in the capital of the Falsford Kingdom. His father, who had accompanied Hector to the ceremony, once again reminded him that in their aristocratic family, magicians with different abilities had appeared for generations on end. Hector, who had long known all this, simply gazed sadly out of the carriage window at the landscape around. He had promised his strict and serious father to justify all his hopes and become a true master of his craft. Margrave Rend Glenrud ruled the southern lands of the kingdom of Falsford and always got what he wanted, so he expected the same desire from his son. In fact, there were many different magical skills, from healing to abilities in trade or enhancing physical strength. In addition to this, children from aristocratic families have their own unique preferences regarding which skills and qualities they would like to develop. For aristocrats, it is very important to have a good command of the three elements: fire, water, and wind, as these magical forces are the most helpful in battle. On the path to mastering these skills, there were many difficult trials that could not be overcome by one's own efforts alone. But Hector really wanted to become a mage of one of these powerful elements and sincerely believed in the noble origin of his Glenrid family. The most crucial moment of the oracle ceremony had arrived. The Grand Magister announced that Hector had received an especially rare attribute. The heir of the Glenrid family waited anxiously for the final result, but the Magister continued to drag out the time. Finally, the Magister announced that Hector had received the attribute of Earth. This greatly enraged Rand Glenrid, and he demanded to have his son's attribute rechecked once again. But the Magister explained to the Margrave that a recheck would change nothing. The result was known even before the start. Father, consumed by anxiety, couldn't come to terms with such a result. His family had always taken pride in their children having three main qualities, and the third son, an actor from the Glenrod family, had become a failure. Hector tried to calm his father down, but instead received a blow from him. The Margrave exclaimed that he wouldn't let Hector tarnish their ancient lineage. Sandlad felt both physical pain and insult, and his father, meanwhile, continued to scold and humiliate him. The eldest son of the Glenrid family, Deld, noticed that even if Hector learned to use earth and stone magic well, it would be very wasteful. Such magic consumes too much energy and is of little use. So, in a real battle, Hector would be of no help. The younger brother, Glenridaw, agreed with Deld and said that their father's dissatisfaction was quite understandable. Hector had gotten one of the worst attributes. The brothers immediately began to mock Hector, saying that such a shame should not tarnish the honor of their family. Hector could do nothing, only wait for the punishment his father would impose. For now, he was not even allowed to sit at the table with the family. Hector found himself in a very unpleasant situation. He couldn't understand why people had suddenly started hating him, avoiding him, and saying that he smelled of earth. The director was very upset about his situation, as he had long dreamed of getting the attribute of the wind. Soon, on his father's orders, he was put under house arrest, and he spent 6 months there. But after completing his house arrest, his father decided to finally disown Hector from the family. Father made Hector the chief of the village of Boda, which was located in the west of his large estates. Meanwhile, Margrave, in order to humiliate his youngest son, made him only a nominal member of the family and forbade him to return home. From now on, Hector was to serve his father merely as a common freeman and could hope for nothing more. In the winter, it became clear that the village of Boda stood in a remote area surrounded by only huge wild forests. Moreover, these places are teeming with various strong monsters, and many of them are very dangerous. Ehor understood that his father had deliberately sent him to this wilderness so as not to give him a chance to return, and most importantly, so that he would perish. He also realized that the aristocrats could not simply get rid of him due to their high status. So the boy decided that he had to learn to survive on his own, relying only on himself. Along with the leader of the combat group Squamanda and the earth mage Halfdwarf Oram, Hector set out on a journey. The swordswoman was not thrilled about this mission and such a long road, but Oram reminded her that even simple guards were paid 10,000 gold coins for this, and that significantly lifted her mood. The guard squad had a half-elf named Sephir, a skilled archer who was not bothered by these tasks at all. The team had Nora, a half-giant and a real tank girl. Everyone in this group of adventurers was very strong, because each had a B rank. The team's magic was handled by the fire mage Dorian. The strangest thing was that they were promised a huge reward, 10,000 gold, although usually an ordinary person needed only 2 coins per month. Victor suddenly received a whole chest of gold from his father. The boy was surprised because he did not expect such generosity from the Margrave, despite their dislike. Meanwhile, Hector had managed to save a little money and also received generous help from his brothers. So, there was no problem with money. Eventually, tired of sitting in the stuffy carriage, Hector asked Amanda how much longer they had to travel to reach their destination. But Amanda reminded him that it wasn't worth communicating with her so simply, because she only communicates with men who are truly worthy of something. Hector understood that he would probably be reminded of this again. It turned out to be much easier than they thought. He said that to Ladia Sella they had about half a month of walking left. Amanda immediately warned the half-dwarf not to speak to the man they were accompanying without her permission. I told Hector that Amanda communicates too sharply and she needs to learn to behave more politely. Suddenly, Nora noticed something unusual ahead and quickly warned everyone. Ahead of them, they saw a gang of robbers who had just mugged someone. Amanda realized that if they waited too long, they would be noticed, so she quickly ordered her team to attack. At that time, Amanda told Hector to wait by the carriage, while they with the others would do their real job, for which they were paid. But Hector ran after the adventurers and stated that he had his own plan. Amanda said that the Earth Mage's help was not needed this time, and ordered Hector to return to the carriage immediately. Hector said that thanks to his clan, he has a lot of magical power, and although he has the Earth attribute, he wants to prove that even so, he can achieve greatness. Amanda said loudly that Hector can do what he wants. She doesn't care, but she doesn't want to be responsible for his actions. The boy replied that he is ready to take all the responsibility himself. Hector recalled that when he was 10 years old, he fell ill with a strong fever without any apparent reason. It was then that the memories of his past life, when he was a Japanese man in the 21st century, returned to him. Hector realized that all these 6 months of intense magical training had been for this moment. During this time, he had come up with several original ways of using earth magic that the inhabitants of this world did not even suspect. It remained only to test these skills on real bandits. The local thugs were not afraid at all when they saw the heroes and did not even intend to run. On the contrary, they quickly rallied and went on the attack. Hector realized that his time to act had come. A strong explosion of magical power created a grid on the ground that easily repelled the first group of bandits. After his first victory, Hector used the network to develop his next move. The earth suddenly began to crack, and the rifts quickly approached the horsemen, frightening both people and animals. The horses couldn't stay on their feet and hastily threw their riders to the ground. They noticed that the enemy had begun to act, which forced Amanda and her team to immediately rush into an attack on the bandits. Amanda, without hesitation, was the first to attack. Her large sword became a tool of justice. She quickly defeated several bandits. The unexpected strength of the large half-giantess Nora easily broke through the enemy's defense. She quickly and firmly struck with her shield, leaving the bandits no chance and only astonishment. Hector watched the battle with excitement and was glad to have such experienced friends by his side. Even little Oram did not stand aside. He bravely rushed at the enemies during the attack. Half-elf Sephir quickly fired 3 arrows one after another. All of them hit the target accurately and reduced the number of bandits. The power of a B-rank team was indeed impressive. The fire mage launched fireballs forward, burning everyone she saw, instantly turning them into ashes with no hope of rescue. During the battle, Hector used his magical powers and captured several enemies. Oram joyfully reported that all the others had fled, and the gang no longer posed a threat. The captured bandits were frightened and begged not to be punished, impressed by the adventurers' bravery and strength. Half-gnome Orm suggested not to release the prisoners, but to leave them as they are. When it gets dark, the monsters will attack them and eat them alive. In Orm's opinion, this would be a fair punishment for such scoundrels. The group screamed in horror that they didn't want to become victims of the terrifying monsters and asked for mercy. Hector stated that he would not interfere with the decision of the adventurers and added that he could not help them here. Adventurer. Amanda acknowledged that Hector had shown incredible magical abilities and greatly helped the entire team, so now he has become an honorary friend of their squad. This recognition surprised and inspired this outcast, the son of an aristocrat. Hector thanked Amanda and realized that it was enough to just imagine in your mind what you want, and the body itself begins to manifest magical abilities. He was very pleased that such famous adventurers appreciated his skills. At the same time, Alea found people in the ruined carts and told Amanda about it. Among those who survived the bandit attack was an albedo merchant who said he had been trading in the great capital. Hector was glad to learn that the merchant had survived and said that he and his friends were heading to the village of Boda. The merchant was surprised by this route, but decided not to comment on it. Meanwhile, Oram noticed that the merchant's cart would hardly be able to get far. Albedo realized that the situation was not simple and began to think about how to still deliver his valuable cargo to its destination. Albedo, showing ingenuity, asked for help in transporting him along with his belongings to the nearest city. The merchant promised that, of course, he would pay for the service. Hector agreed to support the traveler and decided to expand his route at the same time. The Earth Mage suggested to Amanda to take the bandits with her, as there was a reward for them. The team leader agreed with this idea. But suddenly, another rescued passenger emerged from the van, a girl named Rin, who had been hiding there until it was safe. Albedo explained that Rin was his assistant and servant, and so he asked to take her with him. All the adventurers, noticing how attractive she was, decided that it was impossible to leave Rin alone in the forest. Hector also couldn't leave her to her fate. The actor greeted and said he was glad to meet Rin. At the same time, the young aristocrat carefully pulled a feather out of the girl's hair, which made Rin a little nervous. But the rabbi's daughter cowered behind her master's back, and this disconcerted Hector, for he had wanted to talk at least a little with this charming girl. The cart swayed on the bushes and holes, as Albedo inquired why Hector decided to travel so far, because, if he was not mistaken, the village of Boda was somewhere near the western border and quite far away. Hector did not start telling details to the unfamiliar merchant, and only said that it was an order of the Margrave of Glenred. The actor said with pleasure that it's a great honor for him to be the master of Boda village. Having heard this, Albedo burst out laughing and joked that the guy has every chance of becoming a wonderful host. The merchant shared rumors that, apart from magical creatures, dragons also inhabit this place. For Hector, this was a real surprise, as he had never heard of dragons before and immediately thought it was very dangerous. Hector admitted that dragons were incredible creatures he only knew from fairy tales, and although the thought of their appearance on his lands was very intriguing to him, it was Albedo who impressed him the most. The young gentleman unexpectedly evoked genuine joy in him. The merchant immediately liked the young man, and he asked if Hector would mind if he came to the village of Boda every 3 months. He explained that when Hector became lord, everyone would feel safe. Hector was surprised by Albedo's proposal and asked if he was really willing to travel such a long distance for the sake of friendship. The merchant confirmed his intentions, and Hector thought that this friendship could be a good start for his new story. Soon, Hector's carriage brought the merchant and his maid Rin to the nearest town. At this time, while the brave adventurers were handing over the captured robbers, Hector and Albedo were merrily talking about how wonderfully they had managed to save the merchant. When Amanda turned around, she handed Hector his share of the reward for apprehending the robbers, and the boy was pleasantly surprised by the large sum. Albedo also wanted to thank Hector for saving him, but he refused the additional reward, saying that he already had enough money, and it wasn't worth spending more on him. It turned out that Albedo decided to give Rin as a gift. The merchant said that the girl reads, writes, counts well, and knows how to do various household chores. Therefore, she will be useful to Hector in a new place. Rin was intimidated by such a decision, but Albedo noticed that she likes the young master, and decided that this is the best option for everyone. Hector was surprised that the slave girl did not feel any anger or offense towards Albedo. The merchant took the girl by the hand and tore up the contract, releasing Rina into freedom. Albedo proposed to Hector to conclude a new contract with Rina if he wants to. But the young master said that now, since Rina is free, he no longer needs a slave, and he doesn't want to make a contract. Hector asked if Rina herself wanted to go with him to the village of Boa. The girl was very surprised by his kindness and said that, if Hector didn't mind, she would like to stay on his land under his protection. Rina thanked Hector for saving her in the forest and giving her freedom. Rina, overcome with emotion, joyfully said that she wants to always stay with Hector. The young Earth Mage was happy about his new friend and expressed gratitude to Albedo. The only thing they had left to do was to keep moving and eventually reach their new home. The road passed much faster, and already half a month had passed since Hector left the capital of the kingdom, the city of Grande. As the young lord rode to the village of Boda, his carriage was stopped several times in different towns along the route. The closer they got to the village, the stranger and more dangerous the road looked, so Amanda decided to use her small aura to sense any potential danger in advance. Agitated by Orom, he hastened to return and told about the terrible thing that happened in the village of Boda, where the peaceful inhabitants were just attacked by cruel orcs. I was told that many orcs had gathered around the village, and it's unlikely the fence will withstand such a strong attack. Magical historians say that orcs are D-ranked monsters, and ordinary people can't deal with them. Concerned, Nora asked what they should do now. Without waiting for an answer from Amanda, Hector said that they needed to urgently go to the village to repel the orc attack and help the people. However, Amanda restrained his zeal and did not let him act immediately. Amanda explained that their team just had to escort Hector to the village, and that's all, because no one would pay them for destroying the orcs, so there was no sense in risking it. She was right about something, so Hector decided to give his companions an additional incentive. The young lord promised to give a gold coin for every killed shark and announced the start of the hunt. The adventurers agreed to such conditions and promised to deal with all the sharks. Meanwhile, Hector asked Rin to stay in the carriage and assured her that he would return for her when it became safe around. Meanwhile, the peasants were holding out against the enraged orcs with their last strength, and the leader of the OG was in charge of everything. The situation was difficult. Everyone knew that there was not enough strength, and the gates were almost ready to fall. At the most crucial moment, the orcs were suddenly attacked by a team of brave adventurers, along with young Hector. Brave adventurers suddenly attacked the orcs, trying to get rid of these terrible creatures. The locals were pleasantly surprised and rejoiced as the first orcs fell dead. The young Earth Mage gathered his strength once again and raised a massive wall of earth in front of the insidious enemies, leaving them with almost no chance of escape. The actor thought that for an ordinary Earth Mage, such a strong spell was probably the most powerful thing he was capable of. But the actor had a very strong magical power, so it was not at all difficult for him to create such powerful spells. There were many orcs, but the actor started throwing huge stones at them, which immediately took their lives. The Earth Mage knew not only how to cast combat spells, but also skillfully combined magic with masterful swordsmanship. Amanda was surprised because she thought the guy only knew how to cast spells like an Earth Mage, but he explained to her that he grew up in a noble family, and his father specially hired him the best fencing instructors. So he is excellent with a sword. Amanda simply asked Hector not to take too many trophies from them so they could continue to live in abundance. Hector promised not to harm the adventurers and to reward them generously. After a fierce battle, little Oram quickly approached Hector and told him what he had noticed. The clever half-dwarf quickly gathered all the magic stones from the orcs and said that there were 24 of them. Amanda explained that this would be enough to get the gold coins, and the actor could keep the stones themselves. These crystals contain the magical power of the defeated monsters and can be exchanged for a profit. Ecto decided to leave only half of the magic stones for himself. The rest he gave to Amanda and her team because they helped a lot and deserved a reward for their participation in the battle. Amanda gladly agreed and was grateful for such a gift. Ecto recalled how the adventurers had been wary of him at the beginning, but over time their attitude had changed completely. The village elder of OG thanked the adventurer for helping to defend against the orc attack. The adventurer immediately introduced himself and announced that by order of Margarev Glenred, he had been appointed as the leader of Boda village. The news of the emergence of a new ruler greatly surprised the elder of OG and made him ponder. To convince the local elder, Hector handed him a letter with orders from his father. It was a Glenrod family envelope that OG immediately recognized. Finally, when OG read the letter from the Margrave, he told all the residents that they now had a new lord, and it was thanks to him that the village was saved. The people rejoiced and began to thank the new ruler. OG said that their village was ordinary, and there was no need to thank them for its salvation. But Hector promised to do everything to make the village a real town. The head of the village gladly offered to conduct a small tour of the village, and Hector agreed. All the houses were in a very poor state, almost falling apart. The fields had long been dry, the peasants were exhausted. Everything looked even worse than the young lord had imagined. Hector realized that he had to accomplish an incredibly difficult task, to make this village ordinary, like the others. The elder apologized, explaining that there were no hotels in the village, so the young man had nowhere to stay. But Hector assured him that this was not a problem, since he would have a lot of free land. OG offered Hector a plot of land that he immediately liked. Hector said he would like to build his home here, if it's not a problem for anyone. The elder, of course, had no objections and allowed Hector to use this land as he wished. Thanks to the magic of the land, the young lord was able to make a lot of bricks and build a beautiful house. His home looked much better than those of the other inhabitants, and this delighted Hector. It took only 15 minutes to assemble this impressive house, and it captivated everyone who saw it. This beautiful and reliable brick house immediately attracted attention and stood out from everything around. Adventurers hurried to see the new building, as its appearance impressed everyone. But inside everything was quite simple. Hector explained that creating furniture with magic was not easy, so in the near future he would be looking for other ways to get them. Amanda was amazed that he was able to make the house itself, and asked if Hector could build something similar for her team using magic. The young earth mage reminded Amanda that after completing this mission, she was going to return to the capital. But the brave adventurer said that the village of Boda, ruled by such a capable lord, seems to her a much more interesting place. Besides, there are no other adventurers here, so her team won't have to compete with anyone. Amanda liked this idea very much because he was finally officially recognized as a leader, and an experienced team of adventurers would help make the village safer. Hector decided to first build a house for Amanda and her team, and then update all the buildings in the village. For him, the main thing is to make this place comfortable and pleasant to live in. The very next day, without delay, Hector announced that he wanted to rebuild all the houses in the village. Ormi's efforts were very timely, as she was well versed in earth magic. The half-gnome girl was excellent at arranging walls, floors, and handling other important matters. All the walls around the village were made of clay, and the gates were decided to be made of strong iron. Iron reserves were almost depleted, but there was still plenty of iron ore. Hector decided to use magic to alter the composition of the ore and purify it. This was an unusual decision, as he himself came up with this method, relying on the experience he gained in Japan. Later, the young lord melted down all the iron that was in the village, making reliable gates, and Hector gave the remaining iron to a blacksmith named Birkin. After a busy workday, Hector and Orm decided to take a little rest and finally have lunch. because they had no time for it all day. At the threshold, Hector met Rin and said that lunch was already ready. The boy was surprised to see her in a maid's uniform. Rin explained that it was more convenient for her to cope with household chores. Hector emphasized that she was no longer a slave and could now do what she wanted, since she was no longer bound by any contract. Rin sincerely said that she wants to be with Hector and take care of him every day. She even offered to become his servant, because she thinks that this will be better for everyone. The young lord was very surprised by these words, and Oram did not think for long and immediately suggested starting dinner. But before dinner, Hector wanted to refresh himself a bit after a hard day. Rin promised to quickly bring a basin of hot water and a towel, but Hector stopped the girl and invited everyone to go with him to the garden, as he had already thought of something interesting for everyone there. Hector immediately found a good spot, and Oram asked in surprise if they were planning to build another house. The Earth Mage explained that his idea required geothermal sources, but there were none nearby, so a well would have to be drilled. Hector used magical methods of geological exploration to find the best place. Thanks to the magic of the earth, Hector could explore the soil all around himself, covering large areas and penetrating to a depth of up to 500 meters, carefully studying each layer. When the young magician found a suitable place, he dug a large pit, lined it with stones, and descended underground. Next, he decided to create a spacious void under the earth. Soon, a real fountain of hot water burst out of the formed hole, and the girls rejoiced because an unusual natural bath had appeared right in front of them under the open sky. Hector soaks in a hot bath and feels like life is getting better. There's nothing nicer than sinking into warmth, especially when you've made the bath yourself. As was to be expected, Oram came to young Hector, delighted with the opportunity to sit in hot water. The Earth Mage was a bit intimidated by the girl's boldness, but decided not to argue with her. Forgetting about the acto, wash him, rub his back, and delight him with a pleasant, relaxing massage. Soon, drawn by the smell of hot water, Amanda appeared as well. The adventurers joked with Hector, saying he had decided to pamper himself in a hot bath and had completely forgotten about his codes and his gun. Soon, the whole team of adventurers joined the water, and Hector began to get angry, because everyone came without permission. Everyone just asked the land magus to make a similar source of hot water in the adventurer's house. Young Hector's organism couldn't withstand such a whirlwind of emotions, so the young lord quickly ran away from the girls. It was this funny incident that became the reason why the next day in the village of Boda, a public bathhouse was built, which greatly pleased the locals. After analyzing the soil of a hectare, it became clear that this poor land lacking useful substances is unable to grow any plant. The OG said that they tried to mix the soil with forest land, but it didn't help. Because of this, the village doesn't have a good harvest every year. Later, he realized that 2 weeks had already passed since he became the lord. The brave warriors had driven out the enemies, all the houses had been restored, and the water in the village was already being supplied without interruptions. Now, it remained to deal with the problem of food. The elder explained that the locals had tried to go hunting, but were only able to catch a few weak monsters. As a result, there is still a shortage of meat, and hunger remains a problem. Rin suggested teaching the villagers how to hunt better to increase safety. But Hector noted that Amanda and her group would handle it better. So for now, it's more important to focus on the harvest until the adventurers return from hunting. The young Earth Mage asked to open the back gate and bring soil from the forest. The head elder of OG recalled that they had already tried this before, but it didn't help. However, the mage didn't argue and simply insisted that they mix different types of soil. OG, following the Lord's example, asked the villagers to do as the mage had said. The young wizard gazed with admiration at the beautiful iron gates and once again congratulated himself that his village was famous for its blacksmiths. The villagers asked Hector how much forest they would need. The wise lord explained that only 1 cart was needed, which greatly surprised the boys who were already prepared for hard work. Hector said that his land improvement magic mainly helps to make the soil better. This magic helps make the soil more fertile due to its special energy. But if the soil lacks useful substances, it won't work. That's why it's worth adding a bit of forest soil first. When the soil was well mixed, Hector used his magic and in just a few minutes said that everything was ready. Medmenogi was impressed by how quickly everything had changed. The locals said that the land had become very fertile, and now they are confident that more vegetables will grow than ever before. When her lord was praised for a wonderful job, one of the actors said that he hoped he hadn't ruined anything. The village elder, along with the villagers, gathered to thank the new master for restoring agriculture. However, Idon Deg noted that he was doing this for his own benefit as well, and called on everyone to work together. People liked his words, and they continued to sincerely thank the young master. In the crowd, Ecto saw a figure that resembled an orca, and fear appeared in his soul. But in an instant, a friendly laughter sounded. It was actually Oram and Doreen who had returned to the village in disguise and decided to play a joke on the young lord, and they were delighted that their joke had been so successful. Amanda said they caught 3 orcs and a large boar, so now the village will have a lot of fresh meat that will last for a long time. Amanda vividly told how they were lucky enough to catch prey in the dangerous forest and insisted that the whole team receive a fair reward for the meat. Hector did not argue and simply handed the man 4 gold coins. Such a partnership turned out to be beneficial for everyone. The adventurers actively helped the village. The village elder was delighted with the new prospects and constantly came up with new proposals. Amanda was greatly surprised when Hector offered to teach the local hunters. The young lord said that the people really want to take revenge on the forest monsters, and also, if they learn to hunt well, they will be able to have better and more varied food. As a reward, Hector promised to give Amanda all the magical stones that would remain from the monsters. The computer decided that peasants value products more than magical stones. Also, the more adventurers teach good hunters, the more mangas will earn, and this will help improve cooperation. It almost didn't hesitate and immediately agreed, because it liked the proposal. The adventurer promised to try with all his might to teach the hunters. Hector was glad that Amanda agreed, and took from Rin a list of candidates for training hunters. There were 45 young people aged 14 to 30, all in good physical shape. Hector suggested dividing them into groups, some to be taught archery, others the use of a sword and spear. The half-elf Safer wanted to become an instructor for newcomers and promised to teach them not only how to shoot a bow, but also how to use a sword. Hector was surprised by such confidence from the usually silent Safer, but he liked it very much. She was a skilled archer with a kind heart, and such a sweet girl was perfect for the role of a mentor. Hector immediately agreed that the half-elf was just what was needed. When Amanda found out that Sephora had decided to become a mentor, she got angry and immediately went to the young lord's house. In the letter, she angrily wrote that she was not going to quarrel with anyone, but would not allow Sephora to be appointed to train newcomers. Hector asked if Amanda was worried that the novice hunters would be distracted by Sephora's beauty instead of training. Amanda indignantly replied that Hector did not know Sephora at all and warned once again this was better not ignored. The rural farmer pondered Amanda's words and realized that he had known these travelers for a very short time, so he knew almost nothing about them. All Hector could say about the archer Sephora was that she was an extremely beautiful and attractive girl. This half-elf stood out among others with her amazingly beautiful emerald green hair. Though Sephora looked very attractive, she was also a kind and intelligent half-elf, which was the impression that Hector had formed of her. But during the training, Sephora showed herself completely differently. She, a strict half-elf, got acquainted with the students and said that she would be their mentor for the next 3 months. However, in class, she allowed everyone to call her simply Mom. At first, the local boys took it as a joke from a beautiful woman, but Sephora quickly proved that she was not to be trifled with. With one sword strike, she felled a huge tree. She warned that her training would be unconventional. The newcomers immediately became frightened and forgot about any jokes. The once gentle girl, Cypher, has become a true warrior. The half-elf warned, Anyone who takes her place will be severely punished if they are dissatisfied with her training or behave carelessly. She will not tolerate either laziness or disrespect. The soldiers shouted in unison, "Yes, ma'am!" Zrenya agreeing with the order, and started an exhausting run around the village. Hector once again made sure that in war, anyone can change. And so began the real hellish training for the village hunters, led by strict demonic mentors. 3 months after the start of training, the former newcomers had already become real hunters and gathered into a separate unit. As usual, in the morning, one of the guys reported on the no threats to the village were found. Hector thanked them for their work and advised them to take a break sometimes. Soon the guards from the bastion noticed that some unknown cart was moving quickly towards the fortress and asked what to do next. The young lord with curiosity began to guess who this guest might be. Suddenly, the vigilant sentinel noticed that the carts had stopped a little further away from the city walls, and for now, it is unknown what is happening there. Interested, he quickly approached the wall to see the unusual guests himself. Since he had settled in this village, no one had appeared here before. Hector glanced through the telescope and immediately recognized a familiar figure. It was the jocular trader Albedo, whom they had not met for a very long time. Soon, the owner of the village invited the guest to his home, treating him to fragrant tea and various delicacies. Hector noticed that Albedo had arrived exactly 3 months later, just as he had promised. The merchant apologized for the short delay, explaining that he had been detained by business in another city. Albedo observed that the village was not at all like the one rumored about. The merchant immediately noticed the beautiful houses, which looked almost new, and the green fields around. He was particularly impressed by the strong walls that protected the village, and even more so by the reliable iron gates, which truly deserved praise. Albedo was sincerely glad for his friend, and wondered if the power of the earth had given so much joy. Ader was pleasantly surprised by the merchant's kind words. He said that he did not intend to stop at what had been achieved. Albedo, in response, assured that he would eagerly await new successes of his talented leader. The witty salesman, not wasting time, effectively clapped his hands and suggested moving on to business right away. At the same moment, strong guys came into the room and brought several large sacks, as Albedo had ordered. It turned out that the merchant brought a lot of different goods, and at first, as Bard had said, Albedo sold the most necessary things. This quickly brought in revenue. Moreover, Albedo bought almost all the magical crystals and monster parts that the locals found. Thanks to this trade, the village of Plit became much more affluent than it was before. The merchant admitted that he did not expect to find so many useful goods in this village. Now he realized that there were many opportunities for trade here. Albedo proposed setting up a trading post here, provided, of course, that Hector did not object. The young lord was convinced that the peasants would be delighted with the appearance of the first store. Friends quickly agreed on all organizational details, and Albedo generously offered to take 20% from each sale as a tax. But Hector turned out to be even kinder and decided that 10% would be enough. The merchant warned that building the shop would be very expensive, but Hector said he would build everything himself. For now, the lord of the village turned to Albedo for help, asked to set honest prices for goods so that people could buy more. The merchant was confused, and Hector wondered if something was wrong. At last, the trader agreed to the terms, and Hector immediately suggested going to where they were to install the first doors of Albedo. Friends decided that it's best to open a store in the center of the village. The main street runs through here, where there are always a lot of people. This place is ideal for business. When the merchant asked when the construction would begin, Hector said with pride that it was right now, and that it would take a total of 20 minutes. Albedo thought it was a joke and laughed out loud right on the street. But when the store appeared literally out of nowhere in half an hour, the seller was in shock. Ecto advised him to turn to Aurum because she was great at design and could make the interior exactly as he wanted. Albedo was delighted that the store was built in just 20 minutes and confessed that he had always admired this village. He couldn't help but marvel at the magic that created such wonders. The merchant thought that now all that was left was to transfer all the goods to the new store and notify the right person. A cat girl suddenly jumped into the room and inquired curiously what was needed here. Albedo voiced his desire, and the merchant offered Key to become the manager of the store in the village near the border. The little one burst into tears and began to complain that she didn't want to live in this inconspicuous village. But as soon as Albedo promised a good reward for such a distant task, Kai immediately changed her mind and asked not to give this job to anyone else. Kai thanked Hector for the chance to trade and admitted that she had heard a lot of good things about his abilities. Hector also thanked her, and so in the village of Boa, the first store appeared, which was headed by a cat girl. A few days after Albedo left, an unexpected event occurred, which the guards on the walls were the first to learn about. A large group of refugees was moving quickly towards the village. They were frightened and asked for help. The guards immediately rang the bells to raise the alarm throughout the village due to this incomprehensible invasion. Amanda and her team of brave travelers quickly responded to the distress signal and began preparing for any trouble. Hector was the first to reach the city walls and immediately became interested in what was happening. The guards said that a large group of people, more than 100, was moving towards the city. It seemed that someone was chasing them. The young lord was surprised and decided to go to the refugees himself to find out what had happened. Thanks to a good binocular, Hector saw how frightened people tried to escape, and behind them, the terrifying goblins were chasing almost on their heels. The frightened lord ordered the main gates to be opened, so that the crowd of refugees could run inside, and then immediately closed them and met the goblins near the outer wall. The defenders of the village boat clearly carried out the order of their leader. At this time, Hector turned to the group of brave men and ordered them to attack the goblins and destroy these disgusting creatures. All the adventurers were fully prepared for battle, and Amanda promised that she would do her best as always. Beyond the city gates, the adventurers formed a battle line, and the heroes rushed forward. Someone fell a little behind the group, but they had to hurry up to avoid being left behind. Together with the group of adventurers was also the village elder Ektar. The Earth Mage once again used his powers and raised a protective earth barrier around everyone. The goblins turned out to be very cunning and immediately ran away, but Seifer, a half-elf, accurately shot the most dangerous ones right on the spot. In addition to Seifer's arrows were also flying from the city walls. Experienced hunters skillfully shot from their bows, not letting the goblins get too close. Soon, the fight turned into a real rout of the goblins, and it became clear that the hunters trained by Seifer had become reliable defenders of the village of Boda. Experienced mages, along with Amanda, Dorian, and Orim, skillfully helped their comrades using fire spells. Meanwhile, he found his own fighting style, Bawu, skillfully combining earth magic with swordsmanship. It is precisely because of this that the village of Boda has become very strong in military terms and well protected from any monsters. During the battle itself, Amanda suddenly thought that although they had already defeated half of the goblins, they still didn't lose their fervor. In such a situation, monsters would usually have fled long ago. Amanda was so deep in thought over the strange behavior that she didn't even see the danger approaching from behind. Fortunately, there was an actor nearby who warned her in time. Amanda managed to dodge, but then the Goblin King suddenly appeared and took the initiative away from the mage. Such an unexpected enemy greatly surprised Amanda, and she was taken aback for a moment. Immediately after that, Amanda saw large burning balls flying towards them. The mages and goblin generals instantly gathered, responded with a counterattack, and took the situation under their control. Amanda realized that the enemies had become more aggressive because new, stronger goblins had appeared on the battlefield. Brave adventurers and commanders of combat squads decided once and for all to deal with the Goblin King and save the wizard's fairy tale. Amanda darted forward swiftly, dodged the Goblin King's blow, and struck him with her sword. A blood-curdling scream of pain echoed far beyond the town as the severed hand of the Goblin King fell to the ground and the sorceress's doors finally opened. The King of the Goblins was furious, wanting to avenge his lost hand, but Ektro managed to create a protective network from the earth, which stopped all attempts by the enemy. Amanda, without hesitation and realizing that the right moment had come, immediately ordered everyone to attack the Goblin King together. When the goblins lost their king, they panicked and started to flee. The village was saved, and the actor along with the team of heroes returned to the settlement's borders. Joyful Rin saw her defenders and happily rushed to hug them. One of the refugees said that his name was Radan and told that he was currently performing the duties of the elder of the village of Bak, which is located nearby. Hector in response also named his name and asked where the real head of the village was now. He told that his father, who was a village elder, was killed by goblins along with other villagers. Their village was almost destroyed, and now they have nowhere to return to. Now the actor realized in what a terrible situation these unfortunate people were. The young nobleman said that on their fertile land stands a high defensive wall, and he is ready to shelter all refugees if the village head of OG does not object. OG immediately agreed, so this issue was resolved quickly. Radan was genuinely delighted with the warm welcome from Ektar and asked if they could all really stay. The Earth Mag confirmed that they could stay if Radan himself did not object. Through an incredible coincidence, the village of Boda became home to many more people, and this gave a strong boost to the development of the village. At the request of residents, the church from the village of Bak was moved to the village of Bota, where new houses were already built. Father Bajini from the village of Bach sincerely thanked Ekter on behalf of all his parishioners and was glad that he was able to conduct the ceremony of prophecy. Ekter, in turn, was happy to see people getting another chance. Suddenly, while Ektar and priest Bajini were talking, a worried Rin entered the room. The young lord asked her to wait a little, promising to return soon and listen to everything she wanted to say. But Rin was very worried about something and hurried to her master, trying to tell him everything quickly. In response, Ektra looked bewildered and didn't quite understand what was happening. Rin hesitantly began to apologize and tried to say everything she thought. Hector asked if the old rule that slaves were not allowed to go to church did not upset her. In this magical world, slaves occupied a very low position in society and often faced unfair treatment. Rin felt this especially when she lived in the capital Grand. Here, as throughout the city, slaves were not allowed to go to church and many other places, but the moment came to change these old notions and show Rinner that her life could become completely different. Hector decided to act in his own way and truly surprised the distressed girl. Gin did not object, but Rin began to explain that a woman like her could not participate in the ceremony with the priest. But the young lord again emphasized that Rin was no longer a slave. No one will humiliate her anymore. Rin painfully remembered all the insults from her childhood and the cruel treatment by evil people. The girl was trembling with excitement, and tears of joy and resentment were shining in her eyes at the same time. She couldn't hold them back, and this combination of happiness and resentment wouldn't let her calm down. When Amanta returned from hunting, she was amazed. Rin, after the divination ritual, had learned to control the magic of light. Hector noted that her ability to heal was the best confirmation of the emergence of new magical powers. Amanda felt envious, because healer mages are rarely encountered, and it's not easy to find them. She thought about how good it would be if Rin became a part of her team. Amanda offered Rin to quit her maid job and join her team, promising to pay 3 times more. But Rin immediately refused and said that her true calling was to serve Hector. Apparently, Amanda had never heard such a sharp refusal before, and it upset her very much. Hector wanted to change the subject, so he asked the adventurers how their hunt had gone. The young lord said that food was certainly needed, but he didn't want the brave adventurer to overeat and lose strength before the important and perilous hunt. Hector advised Amanda to take better care of her health and the teenager's health. The adventurer agreed with Lord and assured that she would change the schedule of her trips to the forest. Amanda told that they noticed that the orcs were again settling their settlement in the depths of the forest, so they decided to expel them as soon as possible. From the traces after the last clash, it became clear that the orcs had already driven out the goblins. Hector guessed that if the orcs had built such a settlement, then most likely they had their own king, which was a great threat. Amanda continued that, after the founding of the village, the orcs began to kidnap women in order to increase their tribe. Amanda shared a story of how she once saved a woman who was captured by orcs. It was a very dangerous adventure, a real spectacular challenge. At first, it was not even clear if this woman was still alive. She looked so bad. Amanda, understanding how hard it was for the woman, tried to calm her down and explained that now she was in no danger here. But suddenly, it turned out that the woman was pregnant with Orkor's child. Meanwhile, the spider packed the kidnapped children into cocoons to leave them for himself as food. In the end, the woman could not stand everything that had happened to her, and soon she took her own life. The actor was shocked by this terrible story and realized how cruel orcs could be. Even if they don't kill immediately, their actions destroy human fates. Always smiling, Orym confidently said that this time no one was kidnapped, and in general this would not happen again. Ectro, looking at little Orym, thought that she sounded very convincing. The young lord thanked the entire team of adventurers for their protection and said that today the village is hosting a meat festival, where a lot of bear meat needs to be cooked. The celebration was a great success. Amanda, along with everyone else, genuinely had a great time and enjoyed the cool, fresh air. On this day, all the villagers received orca meat. Everyone sincerely rejoiced and had fun together, enjoying the holiday. I created the half-elf Safar so that the villagers of Ba would want to become part of the hunter team. They will have to undergo harsh training to become stronger. That's why Safar is the only one to rely on here. The adventurers admitted that all hunters want to be like her, even if it's very difficult. Sephir shared that during training, she uses interesting physical changes. Hector recalled the hunter Ed, who after training had changed so much that he was unrecognizable. Amanda, a bit tipsy, walked into the room and asked why Hector and Sephir were not participating in the fun drinking competition with everyone. She reeked strongly of alcohol, and Hector even began to worry about her condition. But the brave girl assured that she was fine and that she really liked this village. Amanda said that you can meet many magical creatures here, and the village is constantly growing. It would be great if Ecto made this village a real city. In fact, Ecto and Amanda talked for a long time about how they could continue to work together and improve the village. Later, when Amanda was a bit tipsy, she simply fell asleep, and Ecto with a smile recalled how at the beginning she couldn't stand him. Ecto looked at Amanda, who was sleeping and looked like a little child, and felt sincere gratitude for how she supported and helped him. When spring arrived and the earth had warmed up well, Ektar, with his squad of combat wings, set out to search for new resources to develop the village. They set out on a journey to a dangerous forest area located on the edge of the Abulker Mountains. I was told that the expedition would last a long time, and they asked if Ektar was sure he was ready for such a difficult journey. The young lord said that the team of adventurers couldn't do without him, because only he could appreciate or Hector was convinced that the adventurers themselves would not cope with this task, and only the Earth Mage could solve the problem. But the sorceress Orym lacked strength. She reminded Hector of the iron mine near the village and asked if that was not enough. They stated that they would be using this deposit for their own needs. The main goal of the expedition is to find deposits of mithril or other valuable metals in order to expand trade. With the new materials, they will be able to increase their own production and immediately solve several important issues. Orym said that she would go to scout everything first, and quickly rushed forward, not even hearing the warning about the steep slope ahead. Amanda was quickly climbing to the top, admiring the beauty around. At this time, Orym turned back and warned everyone about possible danger. The hunchback woman said that this hill is very similar to the back of a green dragon. Such a comparison alerted Amanda, and she immediately decided that it was necessary to leave this place. Orym was not mistaken. Soon the hill stirred, and all the guests tumbled off it. The green dragon, angry and outraged, asked why they were trampling on his back. A huge head of a terrible monster turned to the group of travelers, and the dragon asked, "Who are you?" The dragon Vismoktuvak became enraged when a strange team suddenly appeared and began to inquire who they were. What impressed Hector the most was that he could hear the voices of the dragons in his head through telepathy. Moreover, these fantastic creatures were very intelligent and spoke human language with ease. One of the lords hoped for his negotiation skills and wanted to come to an agreement with the huge monster that could easily destroy the entire team of travelers. They apologized to the green dragon for accidentally stepping on its back and told that their team was going all the way to the distant Mount Abulker. The great dragon looked at the young magician with respect and asked if such a little boy could survive in a forest where dangerous monsters were everywhere. Hector gathered his thoughts, trying to look confident, and said that he knew perfectly well about the dangers in the forest and understood that it was full of various monsters. He didn't expect to meet a real dragon at all, but he was delighted with this magnificent creature and was very glad that such an incredible friend had appeared in his life. The green dragon wondered if Hector could pass through this forest and return home the same as he was before. The green dragon unfolded its wings and sharply soared into the sky, showering the travelers with stones. The strong monster said that if Hector can conquer Mount Abulker, it will be a real achievement. The green dragon promised, if this happens, they will definitely have to meet again. Having said this, the huge monster dissolved into the clouds, and the team of brave men rejoiced at their happy rescue. Amanda was glad about how things turned out, and admitted that she wouldn't want to fight a strong enemy. Now they need to move forward. Amanda recommended that everyone be more careful, so as not to get into such situations again. The squad agreed with her and moved on, becoming more cautious. After a week of arduous travel, the detachment finally emerged from the dangerous forest and felt the coolness of the mountain wind. The temperature was constantly dropping, and the peaks of the Abulkar mountains were getting closer. Travelers were surrounded by high rocks and stones everywhere, and Amanda wondered where Hector was going to look for the ore in such a place. The Earth Mage reassured her, saying that he needed some time to explore the area, find the right spot, and then he would return with news. Lecter found a more or less convenient spot and turned on the magical ground survey to find out what useful resources were here. Soon, Hector excitedly reported his discovery. Orem said he sensed Mithril here. The young lord agreed with the half-dwarves, acknowledging their find was indeed very valuable, so it was time to act. At first, the young lord suggested going up to the cave that was higher, and Amanda agreed with him. It was difficult to climb the steep rock, and the traveler had to show all that she could do. At some point, little Orem almost lost her grip when a stone slipped out from under her hand, but the girl managed to grab onto another rock outcropping and avoid falling. At that moment, Orem's whole life flashed before her eyes because she was sure she was going to die. After recovering from the ordeal, Orem decided to keep going and promised herself not to look down anymore. Soon the entire team of travelers reached the top, and before them opened large gates to a mysterious cave. Hector praised himself for predicting everything in advance and taking torches with him. Amanda agreed that it was very timely because torches are really needed on any cave trip. The cautious sorceress Doran confessed that in this cave she felt somehow unwell. It turned out that not only she felt something strange, all the travelers said that inside the cave they were also enveloped in an unusual feeling. With time, everyone noticed that almost all the openings in the cave were very similar to each other, as if they were made specially. Hector looked carefully at the walls and thought that maybe they were not the first ones to be in this strange cave. Soon the travelers approached a fork and had to decide which way to go further. Orem said she felt that the Mithril mine should be to the left, and the left entrance seemed newer and less buried. But suddenly the girl unexpectedly received a stone hit. From the very depths of the cave, a rough voice was suddenly heard, inquiring who had dared to enter here without permission. The adventurers were taken aback. They had not expected this, and began to shine their torches, trying to see who was talking to them. A gnome with red hair approached the travelers and inquired who they were. Hector stepped forward and explained that they were from the village of Boda, which is located in the kingdom of Falsford. The gnome Harry was surprised to see a human and asked if they had really passed through the dangerous forest. The local miner gladly rushed to hug the young lord, and Hector even felt his bones creaking from such sincere hospitality, but bravely endured it all. A gnome named Donovan turned out to be a very friendly guy from the kingdom of Gidwarfs. He said that his people spend most of their lives in caves, and this is the first time he has seen real people. Donovan explained that they were talking about completely different gnomes. They survive due to the extraction of minerals, especially mithril and adamant. From these valuable metals, they produce various necessary things and almost do not communicate with other peoples. Amand was amazed that the gnomes use such expensive metals even in everyday life. By Donovan's reaction, it was clear that he hadn't even thought about how expensive these metals were. For Amand, it sounded incredible. A regular gnome pickaxe could cost many times more than her sword. Mithril is a very strong and at the same time light metal. Adamant is considered the second strongest metal in the world. It is inferior only to orichalcum. Both of these metals are extremely valuable and are extremely rare. Donovan showed sincere hospitality. He invited the guests from the cave to meet his whole family. Soon the team of adventurers found themselves in a gnomish settlement. Donovan introduced them to Gorgon, the chief among the gnomes. He told that these guests were able to pass through the dangerous forest to get here. It was evident from Gargant's and his dwarf companions' faces that they did not share Donovan's friendly disposition. The atmosphere became tense, and the situation sharply escalated. Gargan said that this land belonged to the Hidoiram, and that they had come here in vain. It was a big mistake. However the people may respond, these heroes will never return home. For the story to continue, good must not leave the cave from this country. I was surprised by the sharp reaction of the dwarves after the words of their leader Harkin, and it became clear one should not count on a good reception here. Perhaps such treatment is usual for dwarves, and the red-haired Donovan is just an exception and showed unexpected kindness. The warriors were already set to act by force, but the young lord calmed them down, promising that everything was under control, and asked the adventurer not to do anything rash. The actor told the head gnome that they had come only to find Orvana, so, if possible, it would be good to get a mining permit. To this, Gorgon angrily replied that he had never heard greater nonsense in his life. The guardian said that the gnomes have been guarding this mountain for many generations, so all of Abulker's treasures belong only to them, and no one else can claim them. Hector explained that he didn't want to take someone else's treasures by force. He simply offered to exchange goods and cooperate for the benefit of both parties. This idea interested Garger, and he began to ponder. Hector assured that it was easy and quick to find everything needed here, and the gnomes would be able to order any goods. Having thought about it, the young lord realized that he didn't even know about the existence of other mines in this region, apart from this one. For the village boat to have a future, it's necessary to try to come to a peaceful understanding with the strict gnomes. Head Gargan was just pondering this proposal when a cry suddenly rang out. A frightened gnome told about a terrible disaster. In a distant part of the cave, a huge killer spider appeared, which had already caught the children. Its nest is so high that it is simply impossible to reach. The actor, along with his adventurer friends, realizes this is a good opportunity to befriend the gnomes, so they decide to help them catch the killer. The travelers quickly found the killer spider. Amanda bravely rushed forward, but her sword could not wound the gigantic monster. At the same time, Seifer intervened and shot several arrows at the spider. Eder realized that the situation had become very dangerous, so he decided to help the adventurers. With the help of earth magic, he created several earth platforms and reached the cocoons. But when he tried to cut the web with his sword, it turned out that the web was too strong and he couldn't free the children. The spider rushed to defend its prey and tried to attack the desperate man. It released a web that entwined Hector's hand and made him almost defenseless. But suddenly, a red-haired man came to the rescue, and with one strong blow of an axe, saved Hector. The young lord thanked him for the timely help. Donovan told that the web was very flexible and offered to use his weapon. His dwarven axe was made of mithril and was much better than any sword the travelers had with them. Hector was delighted with the mithril weapons and ordered all adventurers to take them as soon as possible. With the new mithril weapons, the team had a real chance of defeating the killer spider, so they bravely joined the battle. Everyone was confident and determined. They wanted to deal with the spiders and save the helpless gnomes. Very soon, the brave team, along with Hector and Donovan, freed all the babies. The children ran to their parents with joy and tears in their eyes. The spiders were defeated, and the danger finally disappeared. The team of adventurers was very pleased with themselves, as they had once again managed to defeat even the most terrifying monster. The actor and Donovan became even closer friends, and together celebrated their victory. Headganger admitted he was wrong and apologized for his words. He emphasized that without the team's help, it would have been impossible to defeat the terrifying spider, and the war guide leader thanked everyone on behalf of all for saving their cubs. But Hector noted that they themselves would not have been able to overcome the poisonous spider. So the young lord decided to ask Gargan for one more favor. Hector explained that they really need mithril, and they don't plan to use it for evil. He suggested making a deal that would be beneficial for both sides. Gargan noted that Hector speaks straight and is an interesting person. One of the oldest gnomes hugged Hector, confessed that he really liked him, and suggested that they drink wine together today and sing a song as a sign of gratitude to each other. He noticed that if Hector could drink more than him, then maybe he would agree to the deal and start cooperating with him. Hector was surprised by such a condition, and he realized that a difficult test awaited him. Hector had heard before that gnomes held their alcohol best, and he quickly found out it was true. Gnomes could indeed drink a lot and hardly get drunk. The celebration of the gnomes was a real explosion of joy. Music sounded loudly everywhere, bonfires burned, and the guests had fun, drank, and sang. A brave team of travelers with pleasure tasted the treats and enjoyed the hospitality. Headhanger explained that they have such a harsh climate that no matter how much alcohol they have, it's always not enough. That's why they're willing to trade strong drink for good mithril. Hector liked the idea, even considering that there's not much alcohol in his village either. But if it's possible to organize the supply of albedo, everything could turn out very well. Hector accepted the terms of the High Gnome's leader and promised to regularly deliver a lot of strong alcohol to the cave. Thus, a trade agreement was concluded between the gnomes and the village of Boda. He was glad that the contract was concluded quickly, and even more so that he wouldn't have to participate in a drinking competition. But Ganger well remembered his promise and said that he would agree to a mutually beneficial trade only when he could outdrink his interlocutor. The actor thought that the matter was not even in the alcohol, but in the situation in which he found himself. If he does not accept the gnome's condition, the negotiations will fail, so he had to agree to this strange alcoholic competition. It turned out that the gnomes were used to drinking not from glasses, but directly from the bottle, and even in large gulps. Hector also felt the strong taste of alcohol, but managed to restrain himself and gathered all his will. With every sip, the alcohol seemed to taste better and better to Hector, and he began to drink it like plain water. Although hunger drank more than anyone, he was still heavily swaying from what he had drunk. After several hours of joint feasting, a heap of empty bottles was already lying around, and to everyone's surprise, the first to fall asleep was the leader of the High Gnomes. Amanda praised Hector. She didn't even think that he would be the one to win. The young gentleman was very weakened aforfu. He simply fell into this trial, and he immediately started to feel nauseous. It lasted for quite a while, but eventually Hector finally fell asleep. The next morning, Hector woke up with a severe hangover and was greatly surprised. Along with his squad, he found himself among the mountains. The journey was long, and suddenly from the cave they found, a loud roar sounded. Hector warned that there were no signs of tall gnomes here, so they had to be careful. Donovan quickly joined the team and carefully examined the surroundings while the others rested. Everyone wondered why they woke up so early, until Hector told them that they were awakened by a loud rumble and noise. But then it turned out that it was just the gnomes working. They were taking away solid stones to pave the way to their mine. It turned out that the gnomes used explosives. Soon one of the gnomes came with interesting things in his hands and offered to show everything. When the explosives had been secured in the designated places, Donovan told everyone to take cover. Hector was eagerly awaiting something impressive, while the red gnome tried to calm him down and asked him to be patient a little longer. Soon, the same gnome who was carrying the explosives rushed in and hid. A few seconds later, a powerful explosion thundered, shocking all the travelers. A lot of rocks had fallen in the cave, and Donovan reported that the blast had gone well and suggested continuing to work. This reminded Hector of the simple dynamite he had used in the past when he lived in Japan. Lately, he had been having more and more dreams about new events from that unusual place. The sector couldn't understand where the gnomes got such modern technologies. Amanda and Orem were delighted with the power of the explosion. They sincerely admired the ingenuity of the gnomes and decided that their inventions would be perfect for fighting monsters. The fire witch Doran was also impressed by what she saw. Such power was even more impressive than the magic of explosion, and in her opinion, even a dragon could not withstand such a powerful weapon. As was to be expected, Doreen wanted to create an explosion that would be significantly stronger than regular dynamite, but Amanda quickly convinced her not to do it. In fact, Doreen simply wanted to prove that she could blow things up no worse than the gnomes. He calmed the enchantress and said that her magic was many times stronger than ordinary explosions. Donovan also noticed how competitive Doran could be. Further, he explained, they didn't invent explosive technology themselves. This secret was left to them by their ancestors. And according to the traditions of the gnomes, only the oldest know how to manage explosions. Hector decided that the explosive technology of the high gnomes was most likely invented by a person who, like him, was reborn. He saw no other explanation. And although this technology is very powerful, it's better that people don't find out about it. That's why the gnomes are doing the right thing by carefully guarding this secret. While walking through the cave, Hector saw something strange. It was a piece of an unknown substance. Donovan was amazed because it turned out to be a rare fragment of adamantiner. Donovan explained that even for such a mind, finding such a rare metal is real luck. Hector wondered if he could manufacture adamantite with his knowledge in the same way he worked with iron ore, because the main thing is to know the composition of this material exactly. The piece of adamantium found amazed everyone with its incredible beauty. The travelers looked at this rare ore with interest, which they had only heard about before. Donovan explained that explosions often throw out such valuable materials, giving a chance to find something special. Then the red-haired man asked them to hand over the actor's sword. Donovan carefully examined the simple sword and noticed that it had been badly damaged in yesterday's battle with the spider assassin. The sword could still be used for some tasks, but in this condition, it wouldn't last long. Donovan promised the young lord to make him a new sword and even to forge it from the best adamant. Hector was delighted with the offer, but with doubt, he asked if Donovan would really create such a sword for him. The redhead gnome said that this was his own thank you for saving the children yesterday. Besides, Donovan promised to make each of the heroes a new weapon, and only from Mithril. After this conversation, Donovan exclaimed with enthusiasm that he was ready to make weapons for all the guests who would come to the country of the gnomes. Hector was delighted with the new sword. The weapon was indeed wonderful and very sharp. The young earth mage admitted that he was holding such a good sword for the first time and sincerely thanked him for the gift. Donovan was also pleased with the result and confidently said that it was a true masterpiece of blacksmithing. All the adventurers were glad of the beautiful weapon and wondered how it was possible to create it so quickly. Amanda decided that with this sword, their team would become even stronger and more dangerous. The actor approached the leader of the gnomes, Gargan, who had a severe hangover and a headache. Gargan sincerely confessed that he had fainted for the first time due to intoxication. Since the young actor was able to defeat him, the trade agreement remains in force. As the leader of the gnomes, he agrees to exchange Mithril for the best human alcohol. The leader of the gnomes honestly said that he didn't understand alcohol prices at all, so he relied on Ektar. He only asked not to reduce the price of Nifril's stock, because it was indeed a very valuable metal. Ektar agreed, adding that Mithril was indeed highly valued among humans, so in exchange for it, they would bring only the best alcohol and in large quantities. Ganger ordered to fill the travelers' Ifralu bags with ore, and forced Hector to give his word that they would again organize such a fun party. After that, the head of the Hyderboss reminded Donovan that he wanted to speak. The red-haired gnome immediately became serious and emphasized to Hector how much he valued his place among the Hyderboss. But when Donovan met Hector and his friends, he began to better understand people, and he became interested in learning more about the world around him. So eventually Donovan himself asked Hector to take him to his village and promised to learn to craft even better. Hector acknowledged that Donovan had a unique talent for blacksmithing that could not be found among humans or anywhere else. His skills would be very useful for the village, and all the residents would be grateful for this decision. The travelers were already gathering to return home, and Oram promised to visit the land of the dwarves again. Ganger proposed to Donovan to join him next time and promised to take revenge on Hector at the new drinking competition. The young lord said he would definitely give the chief gnome a chance to get even and was ready to drink with him at any time, even if he lost again. Amanda recalled the state the actor was in after the party with alcohol and decided it was better to avoid such situations next time. During a risky journey to the mountains, Hector and his friends met new friends, tall gnomes. They left the main peak of Bulker in a wonderful mood. The road home passed through a dangerous forest, so they needed to be very careful. Soon, danger struck the travelers, 3 saber-toothed panthers. But now they had sturdy mithril weapons, so there was no sense in being afraid of the beasts. However, everyone understood that there was very little left to the Green Dragon Hill, so it was better not to draw attention to themselves. Hector recalled their last meeting, when the Green Dragon had promised that they would meet again. But no one wanted to provoke this gigantic monster, because there was no certainty that they would come out of it alive. The young lord decided not to risk it, and think everything through carefully. Amanda asked Hector what he was so thoughtful about. But all the plans changed unexpectedly when the red dwarf said that saber-toothed panthers are actually not that scary. In his words, they are just big kittens that should be greeted. The red-haired fighter did not have time to react to the swift attack of the agile animal and flew far to the side. This became a signal for the other panthers, and now the fight could no longer be avoided. The adventurers realized that their weapons were made of mithril, which meant they would be able to easily defeat the dangerous beasts. Amanda, as a true leader, was the first to rush into battle, and with a few quick blows, she defeated the saber-toothed panthers. Everyone, even Hector, watched with admiration at her strength and agility, impressed by the bravery of this team of travelers. Indeed, the magic stones had fallen out of the saber-toothed panthers, but Hector decided that the extra weight could seriously slow down the team. So it's better not to fight the monsters, but to try to bypass them in another way. Amanda agreed with the guy and defined the main task for her squad. The little Oram was the most pleased with this because she really didn't like carrying heavy things. Donovan noticed that the girl was struggling with the heavy bag and said that such a beautiful girl shouldn't carry something heavy. He would carry the load himself. Later, Donovan offered his help to everyone, gathering all the bags with valuable auras, and then suddenly accelerated, broke ahead, and said goodbye. See you next time. The sudden rush surprised all the travelers, and at first no one understood what had happened. Saphir cried out that the nasty red gnome had decided to rob them and escaped with all the mithril. Hector couldn't believe his eyes and tried to understand why Donovan had rushed forward so abruptly. The group leader Amanda rushed forward, and the actor behind her shouted that ahead was the domain of the Green Dragons. However, it seemed that the travelers either did not hear him or simply decided not to pay attention, and continued to chase after the gnome. Amanda decided to catch up with Donovan at all costs to return the valuable cargo and teach this red-haired cunning a lesson, showing him that people should not be treated like that. He didn't stop and chased after Donovan, marveling at how quickly he was running with heavy bags on his shoulders. For the entire team, recovering the valuable mithril was a matter of honor. And then such a loud roar sounded that all the birds took to the sky in fright, and the beasts froze with fear. The green dragon noticed the people and decided to act. He recalled that he had seen these travelers before and said that he had been waiting for their appearance for a long time. Further events developed in a way that surprised both the team of travelers and Hector. It turned out that the red-haired Donovan was not running away, but was hurrying to the green dragon, whom he hugged as if he were an old friend. In response to the question of whether Donovan really knew the green dragon well, the red-haired dwarf explained that for dwarves, this dragon was a forest god. It was thanks to him that the dwarves were sometimes able to hunt in the forest, and to thank him, they would occasionally bring the dragon a bit of mithril. Even when Amanda was in despair, she still blamed Donovan for stealing the mithril and escaping. The good dwarf tried to explain that it was not true, but he understood that his actions could indeed have seemed suspicious. Donovan explained that he had simply been misunderstood and gladly ran to the green dragon to fetch everything needed. The dwarf began to apologize, and the actor realized that he had wrongly suspected Donovan of dishonesty. The green dragon told Hector that his meeting with the elder dwarves went well. The young lord shared that the journey to the wasteland also ended successfully. The elder dwarves assured that Donovan had always been the most straightforward and kindest among them, so there was no need to worry. He was just waiting for a meeting. The actor allowed Donovan to give half of the mithril aura to the green dragon. The red-haired dwarf was delighted, but the historian Mage did not approve of this idea. The actor asked her not to worry and try to look at everything differently. Daneven explained that it was the green dragon that maintained harmony and peace in this dangerous forest. Everyone here owed something to the dragon, and Daneven himself had helped the team by making wonderful weapons for them. He sincerely reacted to Ektar's kind words and thanked him for the mithril he had given to his friend. The adventurers, along with Ektar, watched with excitement as a giant green dragon greedily ate mithril. The young lord decided to wait a bit, as he would soon be able to get a lot of this valuable metal. After eating, the green dragon thanked Hector for the delicious food. The young earth mage promised that when he returned from Mount Abulcar, he would definitely bring him some mithril. A joyful Donovan suddenly told his friend that he had now decided to live among humans. The green dragon said that it was an unusual choice for a gnome, but he understands and supports his friend. Then the dragon explained to Hector that if something dangerous happens in the forest, he can always turn to him for help. As a sign of friendship, the dragon shared part of his power with him. As a farewell, the green dragon asked the young lord to take care of Donovan. The travelers continued on and quickly left the forest behind, returning to their native village. The first to greet them was a joyful Rin. She ran out to meet them, hugged her beloved lord, and began to celebrate his return. The tumultuous meeting caused Rin a strong excitement, but when she calmed down a bit, she asked who Hector had brought. Donovan replied that this was the most talented among the dwarves, and in the future, he would become the best blacksmith in the village. The local blacksmith, Gherkin, was very glad to meet the experienced master and confessed that, although he himself was a blacksmith, he would gladly learn something new from the gnomes. The red-haired master agreed to share his knowledge with Gherkin. Thus he got his first human student. Cypher immediately asked if it was possible to improve the hunter's weapons. Donovan assured that he would do everything possible and clarified what kind of weapon was needed. Aurum mentioned the web she had taken from the gnome's cave and realized that it would be perfect for improving Cypher's bow. Such a strong material was just in time, and Cypher sincerely thanked Aurum for such a valuable gift. After returning from the trip, everyone went to their own homes, and Donovan stayed with Rin. The others headed to Kay's shop. The cat girl was very pleased with the valuable trophy and sincerely thanked them for the mithril they brought. Kay was interested in where exactly they found this ore, But Hector replied that it was a secret. Cain couldn't be calmed down. He kept asking and asking. We jokingly called Hector a sly manager. At this point, Hector suggested talking about the price. The director said that from today on, Mithril would be supplied regularly, and asked Kay to inform her superiors. Quality alcohol. Kay agreed, but emphasized that some difficulties had arisen with this. The store manager noticed that they had little cash, so if there were large deliveries, they would have to turn to Albedo. Hector asked to pass greetings to Albedo when Kay applies with a request for a large supply of alcohol. The manager advised Promise to behave and returned to his affairs. When the actor finished all his affairs, he finally went home, where such a desired rest and peace were waiting for him. At first, the young man took a hot bath and relaxed well after a delicious dinner that Rin had treated him to. And then he realized that it was time to finally sleep on a comfortable bed, which he had been missing for a long time. After a long break, the bed seemed incredibly comfortable to Hector, even better than he remembered. Slowly falling asleep, he thought that tomorrow he would definitely have to build a house for Donovan the blacksmith. He had to find out for sure what had happened in the village while he was traveling for so long. With these thoughts, Hector almost fell asleep. His sleep was suddenly interrupted. The young lord felt tenderness surrounding him and a pleasant scent. Having barely opened his eyes, Hector immediately woke up. Rin was lying next to him. The girl apologized, saying that she missed him very much, and couldn't help but look at Lord while he was sleeping. After she asked Rin not to blame herself since nothing serious had happened, Lord explained that she was simply surprised when she woke up and saw Rin so close. Elatia asked to pay her a little attention, but Hector complained that he felt unwell and his heart was beating very fast. Rin said it was just excitement and began to rejoice at seeing the master again. The actor and Rin discussed all the details of their upcoming trip to the Noma cave for a long time before finally resting and going to sleep. Prince Hector of the Resistance took her to the church, where he asked Father Bagini to perform a divination ritual for her. A few days before, a merchant named Albedo arrived in the village of Boda. Hector warmly greeted his friend and apologized for having to travel so far. But Albedo was not upset. He sincerely rejoiced at the meeting with his comrade. Albedo said that he received a message from Kay and decided to bring a batch of alcohol himself. Hector was grateful for such a quick response, as it was very timely. Albedo was pleasantly surprised at how well the actors handled the extraction of the rare Mithril and was already dreaming of big profits. The trader inquired if Hector had found a new mine. The young lord pondered whether to tell Albedo the whole truth. At last the young lord told the trader an exciting story about his journey to the abandoned mine and asked him to keep it a secret. Albedo agreed, but added that such risky adventures are usually only undertaken by experienced adventurers. Hector agreed that this was the case. He himself had more than once felt real danger. The owner of the village boat decided that it was too risky to get to the gnomes' cave in this way every time, so the best solution was to build an underground tunnel right to the mine. Hector also told the merchant that the exact location of the mine was known only to him and 5 other adventurers, so the amount of mithril they could bring would depend solely on their abilities. Albedo decided it wouldn't be a big problem, because even if the prey was small, the mithril would still bring in a good profit. Albedo put forward one condition. She asked Hector not to conduct negotiations on the supply of Mifilor with other merchants. In return, she promised to pay all transportation costs and make discounts on goods for local residents. Hector immediately agreed and wondered if he had ruined his reputation in Albedo's eyes. The young lord emphasized that he knows only one true merchant. This is Albedo, so he is also ready to trust in return. The spectre promised Albedo to sell goods only to him and asked not to worry. The merchant was very pleased, because thanks to this agreement, he alone received the right to trade in the mythological rural market. After this conversation, Hector did not simply remain a vassal, but became a real personality, as he signed an official cooperation agreement with Albedo. The essence of this personal trade agreement was that Hector could now conduct trade affairs independently and no longer needed to ask his father for permission. At that very moment, Hector realized that he had to sell his mithril as quickly and profitably as possible. This valuable metal would immediately attract buyers as soon as it appeared on the market. Therefore, it was necessary to act carefully in order not to get into trouble. In just a few months after the start of trading through Mithril, the case even became known to the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Falsford. Minister Alfonso Grenville was greatly surprised by the problems in the commodity market and thought carefully about how to deal with them. The Prime Minister received clear evidence that mithril in the Kingdom of Falsford had begun to be sold much more. Alfonso ordered his assistants to find out the reason, but their search led to nothing. Only one thing was known. The rare metal was becoming more and more abundant every day. The trade routes by which mithril was delivered were so well hidden that it was almost impossible to track them. Whatever route was chosen, the main intermediary everywhere remained the Albedo Trading Company. Also, one area stood out, which a representative of Albedo often visited. This land belonged to the Margrave of Glenride and was quite large. Suddenly, the Prime Minister broke away from his thoughts when he heard his granddaughter's gentle voice. Into the room came young Leland, the Premier's beloved granddaughter. She had only just appeared, and this immediately lifted her grandfather's mood and drove away all his worries. The Prime Minister Alfonso asked why Lillian couldn't fall asleep. It was already late at night, and his beloved granddaughter complained that she couldn't sleep. She said that she is very worried about her grandfather because he feels worse every day. Because of this, she cannot sleep peacefully. Alfonso said that he is fine. He just had a lot of important things lately, and unfortunately, the Prime Minister has no other choice. The last case was very serious, and it took a lot of time and effort. Lillian offered to discuss all the problems with her and promised not to tell anyone else. The Prime Minister pondered. This information wasn't so secret after all, and he became interested in discussing it with his clever granddaughter. Maybe she would look at the situation in a new way and offer some interesting advice. Alfonso explained that recently, sales of the rare metal Mithril have sharply increased in the capital market, and Liliana, with naivety, asked if it was bad, because now everyone can buy as much of this metal as they want. The tired grandfather said that the lords are supposed to report to the authorities about all new mines, but so far no one has reported the found deposits of mithril, so this is a very strange situation that needs to be carefully checked. She asked if she understood correctly. If someone tells the government where their new mine is, they might lose some of their profit. Alfonso replied that it was not so. On the contrary, it is advantageous for the mine's owner to cooperate with the government, as it can bring unexpected benefits. He who finds such a wonderful mithril mine will receive recognition even from the royal court itself. Moreover, this lord will become famous throughout the kingdom. Lillian agreed with her grandfather that hiding information about her mine made no sense. That means there are situations where openness is truly beneficial. Prime Minister Alfonso revealed that the company that supplies Mithril usually transports its goods through the lands of the Margrave of Glenride. But if you look at the map, there is only the village of Boda, which is surrounded by wild forest on 3 sides. As it turned out, this village was once founded for the extraction of resources from the large forest masses that stretch along the entire border. But the idea didn't work out, and soon the project was abandoned, leaving the village to face difficulties on its own. It's no wonder that such active development of the area may have some hidden reason. Who knows, maybe there are indeed deposits of mithril there. It may be that even the Margrave of Glenride itself, who owns this land, does not suspect the mithril, all because a merchant from Albedo has entered into a secret trade agreement with someone who has found a new deposit of this rare metal. Prime Minister Alfonso ponders whether to tell His Majesty about all this. Lillian asks if there are any border posts near the village. The thoughtful grandfather explains that he wanted to organize control there, but for this, it was necessary to obtain written permission from the local Margrave. Alfonso also said that if people find out about the situation with Mithril, the supply of this product from the village may completely stop, which would be very undesirable. Lillian proudly said that she had found a way to help her beloved grandfather. Alfonso, in response, assured that he had always believed in the abilities of his favorite granddaughter and was ready to listen to her idea. Lily got a little nervous. She suddenly realized that her idea might not be of much interest to her grandfather. The woman decided to go to the village so that no one would recognize her. The Prime Minister doubted whether to discuss important matters with the child because he didn't know how she would react. At this time, Lillian was waiting for praise, believing that her grandfather would surely appreciate her wonderful idea. Usually, if Lillian had made up her mind about something, it was almost impossible to dissuade her. And this time, it was the same. She was determined to find out the truth about the mysterious business in the village of Boda, no matter the cost. The young granddaughter of the Prime Minister promised to help her grandfather and uncover the mystery of obtaining Mithril. Meanwhile, the excavation of Mithril continued. Donovan noticed that the new underground tunnel greatly facilitated the transportation of ore from the mine. They immediately understood how much time they saved on transportation thanks to the NT, a large ship. Saphir also noticed that there were no monsters in the tunnel, so she could fully focus on delivering the cargo. From the village of Bode to Empathy, there was a straight road over 50 kilometers long. Hector had set up 3 rest stops in the tunnel in advance and made a separate exit to the Green Dragon. This allowed him, after leaving Mount Abulgar, to transfer his share of mithril ore to the huge monster. Every 500 meters in the tunnel, special holes were made for ventilation, so fresh air constantly entered inside. Thanks to this, it was always easy to breathe in the tunnel, and there was no stuffiness. On the walls of the tunnel grew unique glowing plants that provided natural light. If this was found to be insufficient, everyone could use torches. As promised, Hector regularly brought the best strong alcohol for the elder dwarves. Albedo was very pleased with such cooperation, because it was thanks to this agreement that he became the main supplier of mithril in the whole country. The work was hard, but after 2 months of intense labor, good results appeared. When the party of adventurers and Hector made it to the surface, they decided to part ways. The adventurers took the mithril to a secret underground hideout, and the young lord thanked everyone for their help and headed to the village. Upon arrival, he noticed a carriage. Inconspicuous, but very strange. The carriage with horses did not at all resemble the property of someone from the village. It was more like a city one. But this did not scare Hector, and he went home, hoping to finally rest. However, it turned out that a messenger had arrived to the young lord from the neighboring lands, from Viscount Avon's. The carriage, which he arrived in, brought the messenger home even before Hector returned. They explained that since the master was absent, they had sent a man to the village elder's house. Hector was surprised by this unexpected visit, so he immediately decided to read the letter. The child of Avon governs the neighboring land, which is also subordinate to the Margrave of Glenride. Hector did not know this man at all and did not recall ever having received letters from him. He became very curious about what the man wanted. From the letter, it was clear that Avon knew. In front of him was the 3rd son of the Margrave. He congratulates him on his successes and on how the village of Boda is developing. Also, Avon wants to walk around the village with his daughter. It turned out that rumors about Hector being an earth mage had already spread throughout the capital. But his father didn't tell anyone that it was he who sent his son to live on the outskirts of the country, and it seems he's not going to tell this story either. Hector realized that if Evans just needed to know how the village was developing, it wasn't necessary to go there himself. Given his relationship with his father, it became clear that Evans wanted to get to Boda without his father finding out. Ithilien surmised that perhaps the people of Ithilien had noticed strange things about the distribution of Mithril and thought it had something to do with the village of Pod, but his father had done nothing about it. If it turns out that Viscount Avance has indeed become part of Albedo Company, and it is for this reason that he wants to visit, then without hesitation it can be said that he is a very intelligent and resourceful leader. But the actor wasn't worried because he was confident. His secret underground storage would not be found by anyone, which means there would be no evidence. So he decided to take advantage of the moment and learn more about his neighbor. The actor decided to make a new acquaintance, so he wrote an invitation for Viscount Avon and informed that he was eagerly awaited in the village of Boda. The letter was handed over to the messenger, who immediately set off back to deliver it to the Viscount as soon as possible. In a few days, excited Wren rushed into Ektar's room with the news. A crew with cavalrymen had arrived. Ektar immediately guessed that it was their neighboring Viscount, whom they had been waiting for. The young lord reported that a very important guest had arrived and demanded that the gates be opened immediately and the carriage be let in. But Captain of the Huntsmen Ed was cautious. He decided to wait for permission from Ektar, and only after that ordered the gates to be opened. Ektar came out to greet the guests, introduced himself, and invited them to the village of Boda. The coachmen looked surprised. They clearly did not expect to see such high walls and strong gates near this settlement. The first girl to step out of the carriage was also impressed by the huge defensive buildings. Hector thought this could be the Viscount's daughter he had written about in his letter. It was also emphasized that for a small village on the outskirts of the country, this settlement has a fairly strong outer wall which reliably protects its inhabitants from monster attacks. One rich girl asked if Lord Hector himself had built this great wall. Hector explained that his native village of Boda was surrounded on 3 sides by a wild and dangerous forest. If not for this wall, frightening monsters could at any moment attack and frighten the local inhabitants. That's why the construction of the outer wall was the most important stage for the development of the settlement. The girl, captivated by Ektar's story, asked if he was really the local lord, since he looked too young for such a role. The actor said that he really runs this village and can answer all questions. Lillian looked him straight in the eye. It was clear that she wanted to find out a lot. William understood that this guy was the reason for her grandfather's agitation. She recalled how Prime Minister Alfonso had advised her to be cautious, even if she thought everything was under control. Lillian couldn't stand how Yan pretended to be innocent. Hector also made out like he had nothing to do with all the dark dealings with Mithril. The brave granddaughter of the Prime Minister decided to find out where the large stocks of rare metal come from. She was accompanied by Viscount Avance himself, who advised Lillian to introduce herself first and be more welcoming. Hector. Viscount Avance apologized for his daughter's ill-mannered behavior, explaining that the road had been long and she was a bit tired. Lillian quickly took herself in hand and became more polite and pleasant. The actor said that his village is not distinguished by anything special, but he really hopes that Viscount Avance and his lovely daughter will have a good time here. Avance thanked for the warm welcome and asked to take care of them. But then the Guardian reported, monsters are approaching the village. It became known that the Diamond Wolves were rapidly approaching the settlement from the main road. The young Lord Hector immediately ordered the main gates to be closed and preparations for defense to be made. Lillian watched with interest as Hector ordered Captain Ed to defend the city and take charge of the archers. In an instant, Captain Ed loudly ordered the Diamond Wolves to open fire. The city was bombarded with terrible arrows that poured from above and ruthlessly struck the monsters. Skilled archers shot without stopping and almost never missed. It seemed that the end of the Diamond Wolves was about to come right now. Meanwhile, Viscount Evan's carriage had already passed through the main gates, which immediately closed, reliably stopping the monsters. The esteemed Viscount Evans sincerely thanked the young actor for his quick and skilled assistance, acknowledging that without him they could have gotten into serious trouble. The Viscount also added that he had not expected to see such organized security in the village. In response, the actor explained they were not security guards, but local hunters who had gathered together. The young lord explained that local hunters take turns standing guard on the walls to protect the village from monsters. At that time, Captain Ed reported to his lord that the Diamond Wolves had been completely eliminated, which greatly surprised the guests. Louisan immediately noticed Ed's appearance. In her opinion, he had too many weapons and armor for a hunter. The girl immediately noticed that all of the hunter's equipment was made of mithril. Such armor is very rare, even among the royal guards, so it looked strange. Lillian apologized and said that, in her opinion, The village of Boda was unlikely to have a lot of money to buy such expensive ammunition. For Lord Hector, it was not easy to get such weapons and armor, but it was possible thanks to special arrangements. Hector realized he had made a mistake. The hunter's armament was too conspicuous. He just wanted to protect the village as best he could, but apparently, he had overdone it. He told the guests that he was the captain of a hunting expedition and impressed them with his seriousness and responsibility. In fact, Ed understood everything well and wanted to help Hector. The captain of the hunters explained that not all warriors in the village wear mithril armor. Only the bravest and most experienced hunters have such an honor, because the forests around are full of dangerous monsters. Lillian was perplexed and didn't know what to say to Captain Ed's words, so Hector decided to steer the conversation in a different direction. He suggested that the guests take a break after their long journey and promised to show them the village. There was no hotel in the village, but Hector remembered the warm thermal springs. The guests immediately rejoiced at this idea, deciding that it was a great option, and immediately asked to be taken to the springs. Hector was pleased to realize that he had managed to shift the guests' attention and mentally thanked Ed for his cleverness. After that, the guards and soldiers headed to the hunter's garrison, and the guests stayed overnight at Hector's house. Julian and Viscount Avance were amazed to see the hot spring and admitted that they had not even thought that it was possible to live in such a place. For it's a real wonder to bathe in a hot bath under the open sky. The guests highly praised Hector for such changes in the house, and again invited everyone to come to the hot spring whenever they wanted, promising to bring clean towels soon. At the same time, the girl told the guests that they could close the back doors while bathing so as not to worry about unexpected visitors. This method was devised by Hector so that Amadi and other adventurers would not be able to catch everyone off guard. That evening, Rin started preparing dinner and told the guests that they could ask her anything they were interested in. Lillian and Avons appreciated her kindness and thanked her for her attention and care. After a long and exhausting journey, Avons and Lillian were finally able to rest in the hot springs, where a delicious dinner made from the freshest products, prepared by Rin according to her special recipe, was waiting for them. While the guests were enjoying dinner, the maid quickly prepared the rooms for them. Lillian and Avance soon went to bed and fell asleep. In the morning, after a delicious breakfast, Hector showed them those parts of the village that they had not had time to see yet. Hector amazed the guests with his vast fields planted with various vegetables. They strolled between the new, well-maintained buildings. Later, they visited a store run by a girl dressed as a cat. After such a busy day, everyone relaxed in hot baths, had a delicious dinner, and went to sleep. Suddenly, Lillian remembered why she had come to the village and realized that she couldn't just relax and enjoy the rural atmosphere. After all, her goal was to find out why Mithril was spreading. She was already supposed to tell her grandfather about the first results of her investigation, but the delicious breakfast that Rins had prepared once again fully captured Lillian's attention. The Prime Minister's granddaughter sincerely praised the maid for such delicious and well-cooked food, and Rins was very pleased with such an assessment. During breakfast, Amanda and the entire party of adventurers came to Hector to say they were going on a hunt. Lillian became interested and asked who they were. Hector explained that they were the Strike-Wing Squad, the only ones in the village who engaged in adventures. Lillian was surprised because she expected to meet many more adventurers here. After all, the place near the border and around is full of dangerous monsters. But there were only 5, and those obviously experienced and of high rank. It seems that the main force of defense in the settlement was a squad of hunters, and these adventurers were fighting the most dangerous monsters. Lillian was also surprised that all of them were girls. The Prime Minister's granddaughter suddenly announced that she wanted to go monster hunting with the others, which greatly surprised both Hector and the aerial assault team. Avons believed that for a girl with such a status, it was inappropriate to ask for this, and he would not allow Lillian to interfere in dangerous matters under any circumstances. But Lillian showed stubbornness and assured her father that everything would be fine with her. The Prime Minister's granddaughter reminded him that she had graduated from the magic school as the best in her class. She is well versed in water magic and can also use strong freezing spells, so for her, defeating monsters is not a problem. Billy realized that there was nothing interesting left in the village except for the hunter's equipment. The high walls and hot springs no longer fascinated him, so he decided to go on a journey and find out what lay beyond the village. For an interesting girl, the chance to be part of an adventure team was a truly exciting adventure. But the actor decided to intervene and slightly cool her confidence in herself. Hector advised to take monsters seriously, as one cannot be careless with dangerous enemies, and a real fight is not like school lessons at all. But Lillian was not going to stop and reminded that there would always be 5 wonderful friends by her side, ready for new adventures. The Prime Minister's granddaughter again boasted of her strong magical abilities, assuring that it was the most reliable thing in the world. Hector realized, Lillian is just a child who doesn't understand what she's being told. Hector believed that Lillian had great potential in magic, although lately she had been trying his patience quite a bit. He thought that the girl might calm down if she defeated a monster on her own. In the end, the young lord agreed to take the persistent Lillian with him on the hunt, but immediately warned. He couldn't guarantee her complete safety, so he advised her to stay close to him. I promised Lillian's excited father that I would no longer put her in danger and would stay away from risky places. Advents, in response, apologized for his daughter's behavior, adding that Lillian is sometimes too stubborn, and it's not always easy to understand. To Hector's surprise, Rin also wanted to join the hunting expedition. She said she could be useful with her magical healing skills. Hector thanked her for thinking so considerately about helping. When all the preparations were completed, a group of brave travelers, together with the granddaughter of Prime Minister Leland, who possesses magical abilities, set out into the dangerous forest. As always, the reconnaissance was carried out by the clever half-gnome Aurum. Aurum asked to find the weakest demonic beasts as soon as possible and bring them to the squad. The half-gnome agreed and promised to cope with the task. She understood that the job was not easy. She would have to take care of the daughter of an aristocrat who just wanted to assert herself and boost her self-esteem. After some time wandering through the forest, Aurum noticed a stinking orc. He realized that this was exactly what he needed, and without hesitation, he threw a stone at him. Meanwhile, the other troop members were strolling peacefully through the forest in birdsong. Having never been in such a dense thicket before, the Prime Minister's granddaughter, William, was delighted by the pleasant smell and calm atmosphere. But Amanda didn't like this atmosphere. Due to the presence of an important guest, everyone relaxed and behaved as if it was just a normal and safe walk. But calm quickly turned to alarm as everyone heard Aurum's cries. A half-breed sprinted to her unit, warning everyone that the approaching monsters. Aurum informed the team that magical orcs with a 3rd level of danger were approaching them. And indeed, in just a few seconds, huge and evil creatures could be seen on the horizon, running very fast. Aurum had angered them so much that the orcs wanted to avenge the brave girl at all costs. Finally, when the man recognized a familiar place, he gave the team an order to prepare for battle. But suddenly, the Prime Minister's granddaughter said that she could handle everything herself and that help was not needed. The adventurers were amazed at the young Vada's bravery and were confused. Meanwhile, Lillian was already ready to use her freezing magic. With light and agile movements of her hands, the Prime Minister's granddaughter applied the strongest water magic. She created a powerful stream of boiling water and directed it straight at the enraged orcs. As soon as the stream of water covered the 3 giant monsters, the freezing magic immediately worked. The orcs became gleaming ice statues in an instant and could no longer do anything. A young noble girl who already possessed strong magical abilities wanted to amaze her friends even more with new tricks. Lillian used her amazing magical abilities and created an icy gust. A stream of icy debris covered the orcs, who were already encased in ice, and shattered them into thousands of pieces. This incredible spectacle stunned all the adventurers and astonished young Lord Ector. He had not expected that the young aristocrat could be so strong. Lillian was very happy, because for the first time in her life she had defeated monsters and was finally able to show off her magical abilities in a real battle. Ector admitted that he had previously thought of her as frivolous and inconstant, but now realized that he was mistaken. It turned out that Lillian was a real sorceress. She dealt with 3 formidable orcs with just 1 spell. Now it's clear why this sweet girl insisted so confidently to go into the woods. Hector sincerely praised the young noblewoman for her wonderful work and said that now, since the demon hunt was over, they could return to the village and rest a bit. However, Lillian did not expect such words at all and was in no hurry to leave the dangerous forest because she really enjoyed hunting the scary monsters. The granddaughter of the Prime Minister Alfonso said that she had just begun to warm up and wanted to continue searching for dangerous monsters. All the creatures they encountered on their way immediately became immobile from the girl's strong magic, and she sincerely rejoiced at each of her successes. During her journey through the forest, Lillian amazed everyone with her powerful magical power. She used freezing spells so often that it was impossible to count. These spells helped her easily defeat any monsters. Lillian was thrilled with how many monsters she had managed to defeat. She didn't think she could beat so many enemies. But all these creatures seemed too easy to her, and from the feeling of her own strength, Lillian began to forget about caution, like an excited child who wants to destroy everything. Amanda warned that the noise and battle could attract even stronger monsters, so the squad should return to the village as soon as possible. Oram supported this opinion and added that it was becoming too dangerous to stay in the forest any longer. Ector turned to Lillian and asked her to stop using magic and quickly go to the village, because a powerful demonic beast had already appeared nearby. But the decisive Lillian immediately said that for her, the word "give up" does not exist. She is ready to defeat any monster. She became the best student of the year at the School of Magic, thanks to her impressive magical abilities. Ector and his friends did not even imagine that they would have to fight such a strong competitor. The Premier's fearless granddaughter charged straight at the large B-rank trolls without fear. Lillian decided, if her magic could stop someone, it was worth taking the chance and showing what she was capable of. The Necrobar mage thief once again tried to freeze his opponent with magic, but this time nothing worked out for him. The large troll easily deflected the strong stream of ice and hit him with his powerful hand. Lillian hadn't even imagined such a thing, and at first didn't believe that the monster had managed to defend itself even before she froze it. Her magic had failed for the first time. The confident aristocrat was overcome with panic as she saw the enraged troll charging straight at her. Fortunately, Lillian was saved by the brave half-giant Nora, who rushed in on time and protected her with a sturdy shield from the attack of the evil troll. The blow of the enormous B-class monster was incredibly strong, so Nora quickly told the young aristocrat to flee immediately. The strongest warriors from the attacking group immediately rushed to help. Amanda repeatedly flashed, cutting the slow trolls with her sword, leaving them no chance. Safer shot accurately from her bow, inflicting serious injuries on the monsters. It was thanks to these brave adventurers that Lillian found herself in safety. The battle was very fierce but ended quickly because the Mithril weapons were so powerful that even huge monsters like trolls lost hands or feet from a single blow. The witch decided to end this battle with her final attack. She used the strongest fire magic and summoned a powerful explosion. All the travelers immediately started running away from the epicenter, trying to get out from under the fireball as quickly as possible. When they were at a safe distance, the actor asked Lillian if she was all right, as she looked very worried and frightened. The Prime Minister's granddaughter, breathing heavily, said she was fine. Lillian apologized to the maid Rin for the inconvenience and thanked her for her help. Rin advised Lillian to calm down and offered to use healing magic. Ektar also calmed down a bit and was relieved that everyone was alive and nothing terrible had happened. But suddenly, something happened that no one expected. Agitated, Lillian made a few careless steps, and did not notice that right behind her was a steep cliff. Such inattention often happens in children, but this time, everything could have ended very badly. Ektar did not have time to help the girl, but Rin, who was closer, immediately rushed to save her, forgetting about her own safety. The girls rushed down quickly, and for the actor it became the most difficult test in his life, because at this terrible moment he felt completely helpless. Noticing what had happened to Lillian and Rin, she immediately rushed to their aid, using her ability to levitate. The half-elves arrived just in time. When the girls were already falling into the abyss, a strong wind picked them up and slowed down their fall. Lillian felt the force of the wind and realized they were lucky to have escaped. The interlocutor thanked Cypher for his help, but the half-elf explained that she could only slow down their fall, and it was impossible to return the girls back to the mountain. They would have to rescue themselves. Meanwhile, Orym faced a new problem and immediately decided to tell the young lord about it. Hector was already tired after all the trials of the day and anxiously awaited some other danger. It turned out that the girls were calmly landing on tall trees with dense foliage, and the Oryms warned that they could get stuck there. It turned out just as Orym had said. Lillian hurt herself when she landed on the thick branches of the trees, but she was very grateful that Sephir's magic had helped her survive and avoid serious injury. Having rested a bit, the young aristocrat realized that she was at the top of a gigantic tree that rose upwards for about 10 meters. Now she had to figure out how to get out of there without putting herself in danger. She thought that all she had to do was just climb down the branches and trunk, but it turned out to be harder than she thought. At that moment, Rin called out to Lillian. Frightened, she showed the self-confident aristocrat to behave more quietly. But Lillian didn't understand what had happened, and looked in surprise at Rin's frightened face. Lillian only needed a moment to understand what was in front of her. She saw the enormous head of a terrifying cyclops. This dreadful monster, watching intently with its single eye, frightened the young aristocrat to the depths of her soul. Rin was suddenly overcome with panic, but Hector was already rushing to her rescue. With very little time left, the young lord decided not to waste a single minute and simply jumped down, having first asked Safer to help him with the magic of levitation. As soon as Hector set foot on land, he immediately wanted to save Liliana and fight the Cyclop. But the Cyclop had already seized the girl and held her in his strong arms. A frightened noblewoman attempted to freeze the Cyclops using magic, but he didn't react to the spell at all. Instead, the Cyclops squeezed her even harder, until a crunching of her bones was heard. At this moment, Ektra rushed at the terrible monsters, trying to wound the fierce Cyclop. A strong blow with an adamant blade was able to cut off the hand of the gigantic monster, because of which the Cyclops could no longer fight so strongly. At this moment, Saphir used her levitation magic, and Rin calmly descended from the tree. She was intact, just very frightened. Ektro emphasized how dangerous everything was and insisted that they leave immediately. The young lord also asked to apply healing magic to Liliana. Liliana lay unconscious, and Rin rushed to help her, but Zephyr ordered the maid not to interfere. The half-elf assured that she would take care of Liliana herself and tried to bring the lady to her senses. At this time, little Orym decided to stop the terrible Cyclops, using the magic of the earth to raise a great stone. A gigantic boulder crashed into the Cyclops with a rumble, but it managed to deflect the main blow. At this moment, Amanda and Nora quickly joined the battle, while the monster was confused. Several adventurers together attacked the Cyclops. This surprised him. Some struck him with agile sword blows, others threw heavy stones, and Nora ceaselessly protected everyone with her shield and helped push the enemy back. Strength and mithril swords. An experienced adventurer, Amanda was able to cut off the Cyclops' leg with her mithril sword, and he could no longer move. Although the monster had already been defeated, it still remained dangerous and could attack Nora. The strongest blow came to the shield, but Amanda still worried about her friend. Amanda was distracted for a moment and didn't notice a huge stone flying towards her, thrown by the Cyclops. A large stone came crashing down on the astonished but brave Hector. Meanwhile, the sorceress Dorina applied powerful fire magic without hesitation and unleashed deadly flames at the Cyclops. But as soon as the flames died out, everyone became even more frightened. The fire did not harm the monster at all, but only enraged it even more. Although the Cyclops had already lost a lot of blood, it still remained a dangerous enemy. No one knew how to stop this fierce monster, because all methods had already been tried. The director immediately told everyone to scatter, because the huge Cyclops was already preparing to attack. Everyone managed to react quickly, and the monster's powerful blow struck directly into the ground. This time, little Aurum rushed into the attack. He was very fast and skillfully wielded a sharp dagger, so he inflicted many cuts on the body of the giant Cyclops. Aurum even agilely jumped up to the very neck of the monster and left a bright red scar there. When she used the Windblade skill, sharp discs instantly lodged in the Cyclops' body, and Hector, using earth magic and creating supports for himself, rose as high as possible and struck the Cyclops with powerful blows. I felt how easy it was to cut off the monster's left hand. It was so simple, as if the hand was made of butter. All thanks to the incredible sword that Master Donovan gave me. In this battle, Hector truly understood how powerful the adamantite sword was and rejoiced that he was the one holding it in his hands. An enraged Cyclops charged at the young lord, but the executor's blades instantly severed its fingers on its sole arm. This caused Hector to lose his balance and start falling. However, thanks to Sephiroth's quick reaction and his levitation abilities, Hector was able to land easily and safely. The travelers confessed that they wanted to distract the Cyclops so that Hector could strike the decisive blow in his weak spot. The young lord was delighted with this plan and decided to immediately aim for the throat. But first, they, along with the others, staged a joint attack to finally finish off the already wounded Cyclops. When the wizard's doors released a fireball at the Cyclops, the adventurer gave Hector a sign to start acting. But suddenly, out of the rubble of stones, Amanda crawled out. She was very angry and said that now the Cyclops was her main enemy. Amanda firmly promised to destroy the monster with her own hands. She looked so angry that even her team was scared. As soon as Amanda appeared, the actor felt a new surge of energy and called on everyone to attack together to finally defeat the stubborn Cyclops. The adventurers supported the young lord, were glad to meet you, and rejoiced that there was a chance to finally destroy the monster. Overflowing with determination and anger, he didn't even think about his own safety and swiftly rushed at the Cyclop, firmly deciding to destroy him completely. Lillian was unconscious, but Rin was able to bring her back to consciousness with healing magic. He immediately asked how she was feeling. The girl felt weak and wondered how long she had been unconscious. It turned out that Liliana missed the most interesting moment, and only now noticed how gigantic the Cyclops was that attacked her. The body of the dead monster looked truly impressive, and the girl realized what danger she was in. Lillian was delighted that the adventurers were able to defeat the frightening creature, and the actor asked the noble lady if she now understood how dangerous the monsters that lived in the forest near his village were. Lillian realized how hard it would be to defeat such a Cyclop, even if all the travelers joined forces. Even experienced warriors were able to overcome it only with great effort. So this forest is indeed very dangerous, and it's not worth being careless. Liliana realized that she had demanded too much of herself, since she only knew a few combat spells. Now it was clear to her. In these lands, one couldn't just walk around without fear. The nervous noblewoman apologized to all the adventurers and her two companions. Hector noticed that she really regretted her reckless behavior. The actor advised the girl not to be upset, because she showed that she was a good person, as she honestly admitted her mistake. The most important thing is that she was not seriously harmed, because everything could have ended much worse. The young lord noticed that staying in the forest was becoming risky, and said it was time to return to the village. Rin offered to help Lillian, and she readily agreed, as her leg was aching. The sorceress Doreen asked if they wouldn't take at least the Cyclops' body with them. Hector said it was a pity to leave it, because it was valuable prey. But now there's no time for this. It's better to hurry back to the village. The demons will deal with the body in their own way. The travelers returned to the village with relief, dreaming of taking a hot bath as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Viscount Abantz was very worried and couldn't find his place in the village, because the adventurers had not returned from hunting for a long time. He was deeply concerned about his beloved daughter. Finally, the long-awaited moment of return arrived. Liliana told her father about everything that had happened in the forest and thanked Hector for saving her. But the young lord from the village of Boda said that he was not a hero at all, He was just doing his job, escorting their magical guest. Viscount Avens reminded Lillian that she had to tell Hector something very important. Getting nervous, Lillian confessed that she was not just the daughter of Avens, but also the granddaughter of the Prime Minister of the royal family. This news greatly surprised Hector and all the other travelers. After that, the girl burst into tears, and Avon tried to calm her down. Hector noticed that, thanks to the frank conversation, he understood a lot for himself, and now knows that the royal family's attention is riveted on him. Rin took it upon herself to help Amanda recover from her injury. And in the evening, everyone together after a delicious dinner, relaxed in hot, soothing baths. The actor couldn't calm down after learning that Liliana was the granddaughter of Prime Minister Alphonsus Grenville. The young lord asked the girl why she was interested in this remote village. He assumed that perhaps she wanted to know why his settlement was so successful. Liliana replied that lately, in the royal capital, the rare material Mithril had been gaining popularity rapidly. Her grandfather tracked down all the routes by which the metal was being transported, and they all led to one village, Boda. That's why she had to conceal her name in order to conduct the investigation in secret. It was strange, but the village that everyone thought was abandoned had actually been restored and fenced with high walls. A noble lady shared that she was impressed by the experienced hunters who well guard the village and have strong mithril weapons. As a researcher, she very much wanted to find out where the mithril comes from here, but never managed to unravel this mystery. Hector well remembered that while hunting monsters, they had barely stumbled upon underground tunnels. The young nobleman was glad they had avoided the danger thanks to Rin, who had managed to distract the noble lady, and this had helped the team to turn in another direction in time. After Lillian's story, Hector asked her to tell more details about this story with metal. The young noblewoman confessed that after she was rescued from the Cyclops, she very much wanted to personally invite Hector to talk. Lillian also promised that she would do everything possible not to put the beautiful village in danger. After that, Liliana promised to keep the secret and asked Hector to tell everything he knew about the secret distribution of Mithril in the kingdom. For Hector, this was unexpected, as he himself wanted to learn more, and now he was being asked about it. Liliana revealed that her grandfather, the Prime Minister, already knows about the suspicious dealings in the village, which is why he sent her to investigate. Hector realized that their deception had been noticed by influential people. Now they need to urgently reduce the sale of Mithril and supply less of it to the trader Albedo. Evan revealed that he was married to the Prime Minister's sixth daughter, and his own holdings were just as strong militarily as his father-in-law's. However, even with such support, he did not want to create enemies among the Boat Village and Ecto. On the contrary, he decided that it was better to befriend and have beneficial relationships. Ecto agreed with this, as he himself had long wanted to get acquainted with influential people and get the opportunity to reach the Prime Minister. Hector finally decided to trust Yvonne and Lillian and promised to reveal the whole truth to them. At the same time, in the dark and dangerous forest, the crows that were pecking at the Cyclops' body suddenly got scared of a terrifying flying creature. A large dragon's shadow briefly covered the sun and quickly flew forward. After that, the terrible dragon returned, noticed the huge body of the dead Cyclops, and with the help of magic, simply absorbed it. Having received the power of the dragon, he immediately felt how a new energy and knowledge awakened in him. Now his attention turned to the village of Boda. The dragon flapped its wings faster, gaining speed and not taking its fierce gaze off the village. The fire-breathing monster could seriously harm people.